Ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening and welcome to this auspicious occasion. The National Press Club, working in collaboration with the University of South Africa, as we belatedly mark Radio Day. Those who follow the media would know the global community observes Radio Day in the month of February. But radio has always been a very fluid medium that always knows when to fit. When television was born, those who thought radio's days were numbered were soon to be proven wrong, because when technology of television morphed up, radio was able to find a home within a television set. So it will find a conversation even in the month of March. Good evening and welcome. My name is Albi Medisa. I'm from the National Press Club. I will be moderating the conversations today. I've got panel members that are at the front, and a very hearty warm welcome to panel members. The Executive Committee of the National Press Club, represented by the Chairperson, Antoinette Slabert, as well as the General Manager, Musidi Mukhele. But before we kick off our program, colleagues, we of course meet this evening with our proverbial flags flying at half-mast, with the passing away of one of our committed and very agile journalists, Unisa Main. Johnny has been part of the media landscape in South Africa, predominantly in Pretoria, covering a wide range of stories from government to institutions of higher learning, to local government, to the work of a variety of institutions. His name is inscribed in the annals of our history. He's left this world leaving behind a very rich story of journalism. So I thought a gathering of communicators and journalists and media practitioners and experts in a variety of fields that intersect with communication, such a gathering should never start until it takes a moment to honor one of its gallant soldiers. I'm going to ask that we observe a moment of silence in honor, in memory, in celebration of Unisa Main. Thank you. May his beautiful soul find eternal rest, and may his family be comforted in this painful hour, and may his children accept the painful episode and the dark clouds that are hanging over the family, and may his friends, colleagues in the media landscape also be comforted in this painful hour. Colleagues, South Africa this year is hosting local government elections. And as we gear up for local government elections, the National Press Club, in collaboration with the University of South Africa, is hosting this critical panel discussion that is themed Radio and Artificial Intelligence. So this gathering today will include conversations with experts drawn from a wide array of areas that are related to the theme, and yourselves bringing with you your knowledge, your insights, and your curiosity as well. So I'm going to be a moderator later, but you guys have an opportunity to ask questions. You know, the nature of radio is a very democratic medium. It always has open lines, right? So that's how democratic radio has been before democracy reached our shore. So you have an open line, you have microphones in front of you, so I will not in any way take that power away from you. But before we kick off the program, let me invite Professor Kyali to welcome us. We are at the University of South Africa, so we are never fully here until we are welcomed. Prof.
Right. Good evening, colleagues. Let me take this opportunity to recognize in absentia the VC of the University of South Africa, Professor Lenkabula, who could not be here because she's currently chairing the Senate, which is the most important academic structure of the university. My line manager, Professor Ngosi, who also sends her apology. She is the Executive Dean of the College of Human Sciences. She also is attending another university event, which is the inaugural lecture of one of our academics in the university. So esteemed panelists, the Deputy CEO, Outreach at the IEC, Dr. Victor Shale, CSI Area Manager, Professor Pravesh Deba, Mr. Tumelo Mahora, one of our own here at Unisa, who is the Programs Manager at Unisa Radio, Professor Lepaka, who is the COD in the College of Human Sciences, the Chairperson of the National Press Club, Antoinette Slabert, and the General Manager, Musidi Mokhele. And of course, all the journalists and media practitioners in the room, you are all welcome to this National Press Club and Unisa event that is titled Media, Democracy, Accountability, and Election Year. And of course, particularly on tonight's theme, which is on radio and artificial intelligence. Esteemed guest, I do think that it is safe to say that radio has had a wonderful run in South Africa. In his 2022 essay, media historian Thokozani Mhlambi writes that on the 1st of July 1924, the Johannesburg Broadcasting Station was officially opened. Programming would start at 12:30 p.m. every day except on Sundays. It was split into 3 sessions: lunchtime sessions from 12:30 to 2 p.m., the afternoon session from 4:30 to 6 p.m., and the evening session from 7 to 11 p.m. This historical claim was also supported by the Harvard University-based South African historian Jacob Dlamini, who writes that, and I quote, "In truth, radio in South Africa predated apartheid by at least 2 decades. The first broadcast in 1924 and was a private venture. The state did not assume control until 1936. These assertions by these historians, of course, complicate the mainstream media historical narrative about radio in South Africa. In a special issue of the premium South African journal, Communicatio, South African Journal for Communication Theory and Research, that was dedicated to the 100-year question of radio in South Africa. Introduction to the special issue, we argue, and I quote, "While there are many examples of experimental radio broadcasts prior to 1924, scholarship on the history of radio broadcasting in South Africa illustrate that regular radio broadcasting took place from June 1924. Our conclusion came from an analysis of what was called the ham radios, experimental platforms that were a prevalent feature in the colonial scene of what would become South Africa, and particularly how these were prevalent feature by the early 1900s, and particularly from the 1912 and onwards. And so, colleagues, with these few words and this history, we would like to welcome you, and as you engage, we want you to take these things into consideration. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prof. There are a lot of things in life I fell in love with when I was very young, and it's not soccer. It was, I know, when you grow up in a township, it's expected that all the boys should fall in love with soccer. But contrary to that widely held belief, I fell in love with radio before I fell in love with a whole lot of things in life. I can't repeat that in front of my wife, but you catch my drift. It was purely because the medium of radio has always made you feel like a friend, because it spoke to you as an individual. It didn't address you as part of a group of people. I tell those who care to listen that anyone who speaks on radio speaks to an individual. And that's why, as a powerful medium, it's been a medium of development, but it has also been used in other instances as a medium of destruction. Those who remember the genocides in Rwanda would remember the role that radio played. Well, poor radio was abused, right? Because it's a clean medium. It's only human beings who bring that toxicity to the platform. How it was, abused in that particular era to really fan tribal warfare and hatred. But it's a medium that over the years has been able to evolve and play a significant role. The National Press Club, would want to use opportunities like this to strike and trigger conversations in the country among academics, practitioners, and those who are commentators in this particular field. But let me ask the GM, General Manager, Mosidi Mokhele, to deliver setting the scene messages as we ready ourselves for the transition to the panel discussion on the medium of radio in the age of AI on the eve of a democratic election in South Africa. Mo?
Thank you, Program Director, distinguished guests, esteemed panelists, media community, members of the National Press Club, fellow citizens, good evening. Welcome to the National Press Club's Radio Day event, a partnership with the University of South Africa as we explore this intersection of radio, AI, and democracy. In a thriving democracy like ours, media freedom is not just a right, but a cornerstone of our collective progress. It is the pulse that keeps our public discourse vibrant, our institutions accountable, and our citizens informed. As the National Press Club, we are proud to be at the forefront of this endeavor, promoting informed citizenship and strengthening the role of media as the fourth estate. Our partnership with Unisa is a testament to our commitment to driving thought leadership in the media space. As journalists and communicators belonging to a professional organization like the National Press Club is more than just a badge of honor. It is a commitment to upholding the highest standards of journalism, staying abreast of industry developments, and pushing the boundaries of what is possible in the media space. We have evolved from traditional print and broadcast models to a digital-first world where AI and social media are shaping the narrative. In this era, organizations like ours play a vital role in promoting media literacy, fighting disinformation, and ensuring that the voices of the marginalized are heard. Today's voter is more informed, more connected, and more demanding than ever before. They are bombarded with information, and it is harder than ever to discern fact from fiction. As media professionals, we have a critical role to play in ensuring that the information they receive is accurate, unbiased, and trustworthy. The stakes are high, and the consequences of getting it wrong are dire. But with the right partnerships, the right skills, and the right mindset, we can rise to the challenge and ensure that our democracy is served by a free, fair, and fearless media. I want to take a moment to acknowledge Prof. Chiali and the entire Unisa team for walking this journey with us. Your support and collaboration mean the world to us, and we are honored to have you as partners in this critical work. And to our panelists, I must say, I'm glad I'm not in the hot seat this evening. But on a much more serious note, we are grateful to the IEC, CSIR, Unisa, and the National Press Club for availing the best of the best to serve as experts who will guide this critical conversation. Your expertise will undoubtedly shed light on the complexities of radio, AI, and democracy, and we are honored to have you share your insights with us. And last but not least, what an event without an audience. Thank you to every one of you who braved this wet weather to be here with us this evening. and be part of this critical conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mo. Now we are ready to rock and roll. So as Prof was talking about radio, and it just dawned on me how over the years the medium has always been interwoven into the evolution or the political developments in South Africa. So you cannot divorce radio from all of that. Actually, on the eve of elections, during the constitutional negotiations at CODESA, one of the key areas of disagreement was who's going to control the SABC when elections came. Because the SABC, at that point, there's no Facebook, there's no social media. So imagine a world without Twitter. I know that for some people it's like, where do you come from? But there was a world without Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And it meant you followed anything that happened in this country via radio and television. When Chris Hani was assassinated in 1993, radio broke the story, but television gave us the visuals that made us realize the impact of it. So radio and television have always traveled this journey with us, but today we'll leave the cousin television alone and focus more on the medium of radio. And we do this as we get up for local government elections. And of course, as we've already outlined, we unpacking radio in the space of artificial intelligence, and radio being the medium that it is, it has always been part of the evolution. And to this particular point, I would like to now invite panel members as we unpack, dissect how AI has transformed the media landscape, but also how these particular opportunity challenges really have a bearing or impact in terms of how the ordinary citizens choose or decide to choose. But also there's a whole ethical issue when it comes to artificial intelligence. You would have seen when President Ramaphosa was visiting Washington, there were videos that came out of AI that were showing a different story altogether. So it's a world where whatever you consume, not too sure exactly if it's legitimate or not. Dr. Victor Shale is Deputy CEO Outreach at the IEC. On the eve of elections, his becomes quite an important role. Doc, you may come to the front. Because all of this, I'm saying because on the eve of elections, there is also the registration week that's been declared, the weekend rather, that's been declared by the IEC from the 20th to the 21st of June. And therefore, his becomes quite an important role in making sure that South Africans understand the complexities, especially those who will be voting for the first time, of an election, but also have a sense and appreciation of what exactly elections are all about. A bit about Dr. Shale. He brings with him over 2 decades of distinguished experience in electoral governance, conflict transformation, electoral systems, political party development, and intra-party democracy and democratic developments across the African continent. I'm going to try to have an abridged version, Doc. When I'm with academic, I tread carefully. I used to work with a gentleman called Dr. Themba Zondo. And Dr. Zondo, whenever he says when a guy came to his house looking for Mr. Zondo, and Dr. Zondo pointed out and said, "This is Mr. Zondo," pointed at the son, because he's Dr. Zondo. So Dr. Shale is internationally recognized. Dr. Shale, recognized for his contribution to electoral policy. He served as a lead author of SADC model law on elections and developed the African Union's Youth Participation Guide in political and electoral processes. Let me also say, while I'm still at it, maybe let's just give Dr. The second participant, Professor Pravesh Deba, CSIR Impact Area Manager, Inclusive Smart Settlements, Regions and Functional Building Infrastructure. Prof comes from KZN. He holds an honors degree, BSc in majoring in mathematics and statistics from UKZN. He is he holds a PhD in spatial statistics at the International Institute for Geoinformation Science and Earth Observation. He was awarded scholarship from ITC and grants from National Research Foundation. Prof has led election team at the CSIR for the 2019, 2021, and 2024 elections, both in terms of predictions and social media analysis. Now, that's a man who's equal to the task and ready to take his seat over here. I didn't tell you that Dr. Shale holds a PhD in politics from Unisa and an MPhil in conflict transformation from University of Port Elizabeth, now NMMU. He continues to contribute to electoral scholarship. And that background is important because I'm sure when you ask your questions, you want to understand what's their claim to fame. Right, Prof? Doc? Thank you. Professor Reverend Tshepo Lepaka. Okay. He was born in Katlehong, and he holds a junior degree in BA Honours in Ancient Languages, MA Narrative Therapy. He was then licensed as a minister of the Word of the United Reformed Church of Southern Africa. He received his first calling to congregation at the URCSA, Orange Farm. And his further studies include a PhD in ethics. He then became a permanent staff and grew from ranks to ranks at the University of South Africa. Now, in a world where some people don't have portfolios, he's professor and reverend. I want to say hallelujah. Thank you. And now we're going to invite the fourth panel member, Tumelo Makura, Radio Executives and Programs Manager at University of South Africa Radio, Unisa Radio. Let me just quickly harvest Tumelo's profile. Tumelo and I have spoken before, but you know, I'm happy to finally meet him. Yeah, he's a media strategist, radio executive, award-winning content producer with over a decade of experience shaping broadcast storytelling and public discourse. As programs manager at Unisa Radio, he leads programming strategy, editorial direction, and content innovation for the University of South Africa's broadcast platform. He has served as executive producer of Metro Talk with Faith Mangope at Metro, and also a senior content producer at Power FM and producer at Talk Radio 702. Yes, Tumelo. The chairperson of the National Press Club is Antoinette Slabert, you know, a very renowned face and voice within the circles of the Press Club. She's a versatile senior journalist with a special interest in energy and electricity, as well as local government. She specializes in explaining complex regulatory issues to stakeholders and the public, and often participates in public discussions like she will be doing this evening. Oh, I think so. I think so. Okay, I think we're ready to start with the program. As we indicated, the focus is on radio and AI. I'm going to start with Tumelo as a radio practitioner. Artificial intelligence is changing how media operates, and the medium of radio, like any other media platform, hasn't been left outside. From your experience as a seasoned radio strategist, you can use a microphone from the floor. Yeah, I don't know if you have microphones, so you'll share yours with Antoinette, and the gentleman here will also share here. What has been your experience in terms of artificial intelligence and its impact on the potential impact on radio and the ethics of radio?
Thank you very much, Program Director. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much to the National Press Club for this opportunity. Truly appreciate it. I think, in my experience, I'd say a lot of people within the media space are really scared, for a little better word, of artificial intelligence. But for me specifically, I've implored the use of AI in the previous work that I used to do, and it's become my own prerogative to implore that in my current position, right? I think AI plays a very critical role in ensuring that the information that we put out there, so our output in terms of content, in terms of the news, in terms of the general information that we put out there, it can definitely help us in ensuring that there's accuracy in the information that we put out there, and also making sure that the data as well, which is also very critical, we can verify information and data in real time. So I've implored that in my previous employment, as I've indicated, but it's a great idea of mine that I have to implore as well in my current position, particularly now ahead of the elections. It's something that we yet to implore, but I think it plays a really, really critical role. Thank you.
Thank you. Prof. Deba, I got intrigued when I saw that you, among other things, you worked on the elections as part of the CSIR, and you focused largely on the 2019, 21, and 24 elections. And your focus was on predictions and social media analysis. What were the things you picked up? I'm sure it's a different world of how interface has changed with social media. And of course, in that age of artificial intelligence as well, rearing its, dare I say, ugly head in that space. Did you observe any particular differences in the different elections that you observed? Because over time, the evolution of the fourth industrial revolution brings with it different phenomena.
Thanks, Program Director, and thanks for this opportunity to be here as well. When it comes to the changes that has happened over time, when we first started with the predictions for the elections, that was back in 1999, and our focus was on developing a model that would be able to quite accurately predict what the final outcome would be, once we have about 5 to 10% of the voting districts that has been declared. And with that result, we can predict more or less, with a margin of error of about 2%, we can predict what the outcome, final outcome would be. But since then, we have also moved into doing a social media analysis as well. So we use the data from Twitter, or X now, and we are able to look at, do the sentiment analysis, and this is done prior to the elections, during the elections, and post-elections as well, to see, what are the people saying about the elections, and what are they hashtagging about, and so on. So a lot of things have changed over time, where we are using that information to then disseminate to the public as to what people are talking about, and so on. Thanks.
Thank you. Dr. Shale, elections are around the corner, so the IEC, with the registration weekend declared, becomes an area of focus and interest in this particular election year. And of course, running an election in an age where anyone can communicate, anyone can create a poster with an IEC logo and put it out and say the registration is cancelled. What are you as the IEC doing to ensure that the integrity of the elections is not in any way threatened? And I'm looking at it in the context of where we are as the global community in this information age, where anyone produces information from anywhere, and the consumers or the South Africans never know which one is legitimate and which one isn't.
Thank you, moderator, and we thank you for inviting us to this event. You are right. The short answer to your question is that we run to the radio. We run to the radio to ensure that we get the correct factual information out. Ahead of every election cycle, we conduct, in partnership with the HSRC, voter participation surveys. And the new iteration of those surveys is out. In the coming 2 weeks or so, we will be convening a multi-stakeholder platform to share the findings. But I can safely share that the public, interestingly, you're talking about AI, you're talking about social media and so forth. Yes, we acknowledge that this is the reality, and indeed we're having quite a number of challenges as a result of the abuse of the digital and social media. But interestingly, the public out there still regards the radio as the most trusted source of information. And so we purposefully invest a lot of time and resources in ensuring that we communicate through radio, public and private, but most importantly for us, also through community radios. So that is the first answer to your question. The second answer, just to make it quick, is that we also partner with different stakeholders, civil society organizations, the media fraternity, the different channels, yourselves, SANEF, and so forth, to ensure that we sharpen the saw in as far as communication is concerned, in ensuring that we all can sing from the same hymn book. But we also take it further on the social media front to interact very closely with the digital companies. Just a couple of days ago, we hosted TikTok, and we continue to interact with Google, with Meta, because we operate within a particular framework where we can ensure that we collaborate in mitigating the spread of the disinformation. I'll leave it at that point for now.
Thank you so much, Doc. Prof. Lepaka, of course you would have observed, I look at your areas and the discipline that you specialize in, and you would have observed over time how elections are held. Do you really think that we as a country have recorded significant progress in terms of how we ready ourselves for the elections? And I'm talking specifically in terms of the spreading the message and getting content, because I don't think it's just about the IEC alone. It's about all organizations and structures and everyone. They lead up to elections in '94. I was very young, but I know that churches, youth formations, and everyone, the media, everyone took a keen interest in all of that. Do you think we're doing enough as a country, though, to prepare South Africans for elections?
Okay, thank you.
Maybe it's a research thesis on its own.
Yeah, it's a loaded one.
Yeah.
But of course, I think building upon successes that we've done as a country, the IEC is playing its role, and I guess different stakeholders are also supposed to come to the party. Interestingly, you're speaking about churches and the role that they used to play. Perhaps churches as institutions have lost their calling, which was to stand where society stands and demand accountability, which is what the media is supposed to be doing. So insofar as readying ourselves for elections, I think different stakeholders must come to the party and make sure that we are ready. People with information yield power, because when you have information, it depends what you take out there. Sure. And by doing that, it shows the power that you can wield. And of course, you can sway and even direct opinions of people. And I mean politically, socially, and even economically. So it's upon us. I mean, I come from the field of ethics. There are a number of approaches that we follow. For instance, if you want to come to an ethical decisions. Of course, the first one, when we deal with a normative approach, we would ask, is this legal? But of course, something can be legal but become unethical. There's always a thin line between ethics and law. And of course, the second one, the approach that we use, it's a teleological approach. And there we ask a question, is this in the interest of public good? So these are ethical questions that we need to ask in whatever that we do as society in holding different institutions, forums accountable. But of course, lastly, the virtual ethics approach. There we ask, can a virtuous person take this particular decision? Whether it's spreading of news, we live in a very interesting time of you know, facts used to become facts. Now facts are contested in the age of AI. You know, previously, for one to prove that something was factual, you could get sources and say this is what sources are saying. Now in the age of AI, with algorithms that are used to create bias, to create based on human prejudices, I can gather information now and prove a lie to be factual. So we need to implore our people to and promote critical thinking and always ask the question of why. It's very important. So I think I'll end it.
Thank you. I mean, there was a time when, I mean, these days a computer asks that you should prove you're a human being, right? So, and that just goes to show how the world has changed. Antoinette, as the chair of the National Press Club and a seasoned journalist yourself, you've probably covered elections over the years. And obviously the elections in 94 were different from elections 99, and over the years there's been evolutions, radio, television, print, and all of that. Print now is also gone digital. But zooming into the role of institutions like the Press Club in making sure that we galvanize the media sector, the communicators, and related portfolio organizations into making sure that all the facts about elections are available to them. What would be the role of someone, of an institution like the Press Club in getting all of the different institutions?
Thank you, Albie, and good evening, everybody. Albie, the communications industry is all about networks, and that is the purpose of the National Press Club. I can tonight, when we're done here, speak to Dr. Charlie and whisper to him the things that make it difficult for journalists covering an election. Fortunately, what I will tell him, if I speak to him about that, I will thank him, because the IEC really provides us the most wonderful facilities in the National and Provincial Results Center. I've been there for numerous national, provincial, and local government elections, and it is fantastic because all the leaders of political parties are there. Funny, they come initially, and if their party goes down, they vanish. But you get a chance to speak to the top people of the different parties, informally and formally. You can interview them, you can ask them questions. All the experts are there. But I think what I would caution with regard to radio specifically, firstly I must say I think radio really comes to its own in elections, because these days, especially with talk radio, you have reporters all over the country, because they can phone in, they can tell you wherever they are, in the furthest corner, the smallest village, they can tell you, we don't have ballot papers, or the presiding officer didn't pitch, or the voting station didn't open. And your listeners will know it before the IEC maybe knows it. But then I also want to caution, I read this morning a post on X by Minister Chaveni, where she quoted Ipsos, and an Ipsos index. It's called Perils of Perception, which shows that South Africans are among the South Africa is among the top countries of people who catastrophize. We believe the worst things about our country. For example, they asked what percentage of us believe that, what percentage of teenage girls get pregnant? And the respondents said 40%. Actually, it's 5%. So we believe things are much worse than they are. And with that in the background, now you as a reporter or your caller says, on the open plot in my neighborhood, I found a box full of ballot papers. And immediately we report it. It's big news and it's a catastrophe and the elections are not fair. Whereas in my experience, usually there was a very good explanation for that kind of event. So it's a challenge for us as journalists, and especially radio that is instant, to manage audiences and also to keep a sense of proportion. And then I would just like to say about AI, I think we have only scratched the surface, most of us journalists, in using AI. But of course, the basic principles of journalism stand. You have to verify, you have to be balanced. You can't rely on AI to do that for you, but you can use it as a tool. For example, it may be very useful to make a quick graphic. You've got maybe the first 10 voting stations, you've got the, or wards, you've got the results. You can quickly compare it with the previous election, where we were at the same stage, and create a graphic with AI. That's just one application, which I think can be used very quickly and very efficiently. I'll leave it there.
So it's not a bad idea at all, artificial intelligence. It's meant to make our lives easier. But there's, of course, there are a whole reach of ethics involved in there because there's been manipulations involved. I'm going to open the floor for comments, for questions, for compliments, or any remarks that you think is going to enhance or even seek much more clarity from the questions that have been asked. Matalatale, I'm seeing your hand up here. You'll switch on the mic and introduce yourself.
I think currently, perhaps there is a focus on what we call the mainstream media because obviously they set the agenda. But I think where we need to invest more time is at the grassroots level in terms of if we're going to deepen our democracy and getting more people to really understand the electoral processes. From a SALGA point of view, we have partnered now with SANEF, with MDDA, the Media Development Diversity Agency, and the IEC, and other players. We are rolling out a national program. We started now in KZN this week, where we inviting media practitioners on the ground to workshop them. We have a whole day workshops where we're taking them through what it takes to cover elections, the history of local government in South Africa, and many other issues, including misinformation and other things. Because we've realized that there's a knowledge gap that we need to also close. But in particular, capacitating, especially the small media players, where we're able to, I think, assist them in terms of closing that knowledge gap. And I think the discussion that we're having, I think, is assisting, but we need to also take it to another level where we bring community media to be more involved, especially community radio, in terms of if we're going to especially fight the scares that we're seeing now of how AI is currently being wrongly utilized. I think we should maybe look at also going to that level. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Modiba. Can we move the mic to the gentleman over here? Tonight, there's no stupid question, colleagues. Any question goes. You're in a safe space, as they say. Yes, ma'am. You see? Okay.
It's 4%. The reality is that in terms of the statistics that we get, especially from the government, in terms of the quoting and everything like that, they give us a lower rate. When they say that thing cost them 100 million, it actually costs them 300 million, especially when it comes from the government. I just wanted to make that comment. And when I'm moving to my question, program director, directed to, I don't know if you said it was the Reverend or?
Yes.
Yes. In terms, you spoke about the ethics. We are worried as South Africans about the mushrooming churches that we see in our towns, in our villages and everywhere else. You'll agree with me now here where we are sitting in Sunnyside. If you could drive here on a Sunday morning, every corner there's a church. In the bushes, there are churches. And you will never see really the media or for that matter, people doing interviews there and asking what's happening, not even the police. So now my question is, what are you as religious people doing to curb such things? Because that's where the influence from leaders that we don't even know where they're coming from. The leaders or whoever is representing those churches, they feed those people with the wrong information, they redirect them, they in a way make decisions for them, that whatever decision the members are going to make, it will be influenced by what the leader has said. You know, in the religious environment how it works. And most of the time, unfortunately, some of these churches, they are led by brothers from other countries, for a lack of better word, or I can loosely say foreigners, because we naturally or traditionally or culturally in South Africa don't have such practices. If you go back to our practices and all those things. So how are you as religious leaders? Do you have the bodies that can firmly, working hand in hand with the government or other bodies, religious bodies, curb that which we are seeing in our bushes and in our flats and in our towns, and the influence and the ill practices that these members, these leaders are teaching our people? Because if you can look at that program that was there, that committee that was there to curb these undocumented religious leaders and everything, I can't remember, there was a lady leading it and it was dealing with these things. Half of the panel there, half of those people appointed there, they are politicians. They are not even religious leaders. But we are wanting them to deal with the religious issue that is affecting millions of South Africans.
Okay.
That is my question to you, sir. Can I have a last question to the other professor quickly? Just a quick one. Sir, you spoke about the analysis system that you use in terms of taking it back to the people to say you will see how the outcome of the elections will be or how the outcome of them. How often do you visit that analytical system that you are using and how effective it is? Because we see things still going wrong, but we're talking about those analytical systems. We still have people who are not, the youth that are not motivated to vote. We still have people who just vote randomly. Thank you.
Thank you. I think, Antoinette, there was, I don't know if it's a question or your insight.
No, it was
sort
a comment.
of that.
It was a comment.
It was a comment, and then Prof. Reverend Parker, and then we'll then ask for Prof. Deba to make an intervention as well. Okay,
thanks. I think the biggest mistake was to introduce that I'm a reverend.
The man of God will always be the man of God.
No, that's
Prof.
No, thank you. You know, when the sphere of spirituality gets to be manipulated, anything happens. It saddens me when people are bestowed with the gift of critical thinking, but when they enter spiritual matters, enter the church, they leave that faculty of thinking. And I can tell you here, you must never go to any church where they ask you not to think, because there is a problem there. In fact, the church must teach you to critically think, ask serious questions. Now, you know, there's a paper I wrote on the Zondo Commission, and I used the story of one of those churches that Jesus wrote to, the Church of Philadelphia, when he said, "You are neither hot nor cold." And the story there was that that church was made up of people who control the means of production in that city of Philadelphia. So people who were preaching there could not preach against how workers in those fields were being abused, because those who owned means of production were providing for leaders. So sometimes churches as institutions, we find ourselves in a situation where we know the truth, but we keep quiet because politicians, we're in the pockets of politicians. Even our theology gets to be diluted and whatsoever. Different structures that should be regulated. So in short, it's about time that we moved for regulation. We cannot go on like this. But I must just say about there. The problem is not only churches that make people drink petrol and what. You are leaving us who preach Sundays and Sundays from mainland churches. You never question the kind of theology that we're preaching in pulpits, which tells people to spiritualize poverty. So we must also be held accountable even in mainland churches. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. I think we'll go to the Prof now. Yes.
Okay. Now, thanks for that question. Perhaps before I try to answer the question, maybe I should also explain why it is that we do the predictions. When the results are being shown on the dashboard at that stage, very early in the elections, the results are actually very biased in terms of what it's showing each of the political parties. If you are then assuming that is what it's going to end up with. So the model that has been developed is to try to remove that biasness and to predict what the final outcome would be. And as I mentioned, over the years, we've been quite accurate in the information that we give out in terms of the final predictions, and the margin of error, we have seen it to be within a 2 percentage point margin of error, which is quite, it's quite accurate. Even when new political parties come on board as well, we are able to quite accurately predict, how they are going to perform as well. Like, for example, when COPE came in 2009, when EFF came in, and even MK as well. And even the last elections, with all the changes, with 3 ballots and independent parties and independent candidates and so on, the model still was able to accurately predict what the final outcome would be. So it is more through our experience of disseminating this information that we have been able to say that the accuracy is fairly, we are fairly accurate in the information that we disseminate. Thanks.
Albie, can I come in?
Please do.
I just want to explain how important that is and how that also links with what I was saying, that we must keep a sense of proportion when we report on elections. For example, let's say the first results come in from small rural areas in the Northern Cape, and we see the Freedom Front is doing so well. If we now go out and say, guys, the Freedom Front is going to win, we can completely mislead our audiences. It can influence markets. It can have a lot of bad impacts. And someone like the CSIR, and I want to confirm, they've been extremely accurate and very helpful. So as a journalist, you must know that that is a source that you must really tap into. That's a credible source, rather than listen to the guy on the corner who's got his own, this kind of prediction system. Then you can look at their model and they can say, when only those few villages in the Northern Cape have come in, there's nothing from Soweto, there's nothing from KZN. Even with those a small amount of results, they can predict using previous data, is that right?
Yeah, the previous year's election is being used just to create our clusters.
Okay, I won't even try to explain how, because you heard the professors big in maths and all those kind of things. But they've got a model to then say, this, with a 2% fault margin, we predict that the ANC will get, let's say, 44% and the DA will get 20%, or whatever the case may be. And then just to add to that, another thing that is very important in the run-up to the elections is how you deal with surveys. There have been some cases at the Ombud about how journalists dealt with surveys, because now you as a voter, you consider, maybe I'll vote for Action SA, maybe I vote for COPE, maybe I vote for the ANC. But then there is a survey that comes out that says, forget about Action SA or forget about COPE. They have so little support. That influences how people vote in the end. So you must be sure that the surveys that you report on, that you know who does it, who funds it, how reliable are they. And obviously they are not 100%, but it is important that you educate yourself about the credibility of surveys. Thank you.
You want to follow up on that? Because I can come back to you, Mtalatali.
There's a role that maybe I just want to understand is to what extent does the academia play a role in trying to assist ordinary people to grapple with the influx of all of these surveys that are going to be coming out now? Thanks.
Thank you. Let me allow a question from the lady here. I'll come to you, sir. I know you're closer to the microphone. Maybe let me do this. I'm going to ask the lady here to say her part.
Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Itumeleng Lelaga. Okay. Oh, okay. My name is Itumeleng Lelaga. I'm a PR practitioner by profession, but today I wear a different hat. I want to actually make a comment and ask a question to Dr. Victor from the IEC. You mentioned that the IEC is now working with civil societies and what else did you mention? Community radios to be able to spread information and to educate people on the elections, the upcoming elections. So I wanted to also ask, is it also possible for the IEC to partner up with universities, maybe first-year students who are still new to university and also the voting system? You know, they probably don't know much. They only know the information that they see and hear on TVs. But is it possible that the IEC could also work with universities, TVET colleges, CET colleges, and also maybe go to township communities, rural communities, where they can be on the ground educating the young people in the communities? Because I believe that they are the ones who hold the most power when it comes to voting. The more we educate them on voting and the importance of voting and making sure that you vote for the right party can create a big impact on it. But I also want to say thank you so much for willing to work with civil societies. And I also want to say I love the initiative that Salga and the MMDA has taken to go around and educate the radio journalists in the communities.
As we're having these conversations, there are people who are not physically here, but they're joining us virtually. So as these cameras are capturing all of this and live streaming it, we're not recording for historical purposes. No, we're live. We're live. If you're one of those who always, when they are in a session like this, they always want to make sure that they share with the world where they are, what they're doing, and what the conversations are about, feel free. We are now on, or rather we are on X, NP Club, which is National Press Club, at NP Club, and as well as on Facebook, National Press Club. Just tag us, let's have a conversation, let's get the nation talking as well. The gentleman over here had a hand, and I'll come to you, Doc.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Chofajo Morena. I am an electrical engineering by profession. I specialized in automation and artificial intelligence. I'm currently busy with my second qualification. And I just have a question to the, the IEC representative right there, sir. Do you think at some point in time, voting will migrate to digital? Because as you may have realized, there's a lot of government entities nowadays that are moving their services and products online. For example, we've got the Home Affairs saying that in the future, we will no longer have physical IDs, we will have digital smart IDs. So with that, I'm just interested to hear, in terms of voting, do you see that moving digital anytime soon? And if so, what are the regulatory methods that are going to be used for the digital migration? And also, I just have a question about artificial intelligence to the government itself as well. What exactly is the judiciary government? As you guys know, the judiciary government is the government that is responsible for making a lot of the laws in South Africa. Correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah. What is the government also saying about AI? Because we need to start regulating it as soon as possible. Believe you me, I am telling you what it is right now, because sooner or later, we will no longer have watermarks on videos that claiming to be AI. Everything will just be moving in areas where we can't really tell what's what and what's what. So why is the government quiet? Why is the government not saying anything about it? Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Mine is a quick question. I think it's Prof. Mann about the model, the data model. I just wanted to ask quickly if there's anything else that you look at rather than voters' predictability of the results. Things such as voters' efficacy, whether people feel that there is any value in them voting, are they going to vote yes or no? and also things related to issue management, voters' issues. Are you able to see maybe in the models what are the key issues maybe that people are concerned about? That data, I think, is very important for government or even politicians to see what are the issues in the public domain. It is also similarly important for journalists to see what are the issues in the public domain, because what happens sometimes with journalism is conformity of following same story, same issue, in the neglect of other issues. So such data, I think, is a good prediction for us to check what is covered, what is not covered. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. Maybe can I ask Dr. Shale to respond? There were a number of questions to the IEC. If you are a doctor and you have a first name Victor, you would become Dr. Victor. Doc?
So long as there's no, and the rebels.
The rebels are not here.
Yeah. No, thank you, moderator, and thanks, colleagues, for the questions. Yes, indeed, we have quite an extensive program targeting youth. Let me start from the top. We have a working relationship with the Department of Higher Education and with the Department of Basic Education. So with the former, we have a program. Incidentally, a month ago, we launched, or rather we activated, because we have a philosophy that we are always on. In other words, we follow the election cycle, and therefore our activities never stop. Most people say, what do you guys do when it's not election time? No, we start election management preparations 2 years ahead of elections. In fact, my office is inundated with people looking for partnerships and all those kind of things. We've long concluded a number of things that people are only conceptualizing today. We have university-specific activities where we conduct voter education on campuses. We activated at the national level in Luhurutsi just about 2 weeks ago. And this is now trickling down in each province. But also, most importantly, at the beginning of every academic year, the IEC is present at every single university campus in South Africa. We put up our registration points on university campuses. We work very closely with the Association of Deans. We work on campuses to ensure that the students are afforded the opportunity to register. We try to catch them when they are still fresh for the first years. And at each of these activities that we have just rolled out, we also bring our hardware on campus. So we actually register as students there. At the basic education level, we have what we call the School Democracy Week. We introduce civic and democracy education at school level, and this we do in partnership with the Department of Basic Education. We believe that if you start inculcating that understanding at that level, by the time the young ones turn 16 and obtain their IDs and register, they are already aware of what it is that they have to do. So that we do fully. Not only that, we also purposefully recruit young people at different spaces of our electoral operations. We are quite alive to the socio-economic pressures in the country, and therefore elections offer an opportunity for periods in those countries. I'm part of the experts who facilitated the cessation of Sudan into the two countries. I worked in Congo after Mobutu for the first referendum. I was at some point even part of the people captured by the rebels. So if we can take those people with that attitude, I say when people ban our facilities and things, don't arrest them. Just invite them. Let's contribute. Put them on a plane. Go leave them in Equateur or in Mogadishu and say, we will come and collect you after 2 months. Then they will know what they have here and what they stand to lose. But Prof, I take want to push back on your point about the useless machines. That's exactly what we are dealing with. In the concluding remarks, because Prof says we need to take the IC to task about the useless machines that are not working, because that's the narrative. The challenge we had was one app. The gadgets operate 6 different functions which work optimally. And if only we can have a bit more understanding of how that thing works, what was achieved, which puts us head above shoulders with all our peers on the continent, and also deal with what was the problem in 2024, we would really have a different conversation. Chair, I thank you.
Dr. Victor Shale, Prof. Pravesh Deba, Prof. Tepole Paka, Mr. Tumelo Makora, as well as Mr. Antoinette Slabert. Thank you for being part of this panel. I think they qualify for another round of applause. GM, I think you have some goodies that you may want to hand over to our panel members. Okay. Okay. All right, that's fine. I think we've come to the end of this session. Thank you so much, panel members. You can go to your, yeah. So, colleagues, this forms part of the work of the National Press Club in creating platforms for conversation, conversations that are important in the development of our democracy, but conversations that also help to illuminate our knowledge, but also to afford us a space to engage. This country's democracy is a product of engagement. Engagement that when other parties arrived at CODESA, they stood for unitary state, but at the end of the day, there was a particular deal that was hammered out that gave birth to provinces. And because of the kind of democracy we are as South Africa, we need to acknowledge the fact that at the end of the day, the expectations of ordinary South Africans are not unrealistic given where we come from. So it's not just a simple it's a democracy that arrived in a country that has got a history of dispossession, exclusion, and all of that. So it's those challenges that any government in South Africa has to contend with and has to make sure that it addresses. But I agree, it's important that all of us, when the moment arrives to close rank and defend the republic, defend the flag, defend the country itself, we should do that. But when the moment arrives to question decisions that are not in the interest of the republic, we should do that. And some of them are very treasonous acts. I've often said to people in this country, we don't call things by their names. I say to people, I don't agree with this reference of Zama Zama. It's not Zama Zama. You are not calling it by its name, and therefore you make it legitimate, right? I've seen acts that, in my view, in a normal country, we would actually term them treasonous, because the republic, the flag, and the constitution are clear in terms of what we should do or should not do. And if you are given the responsibility to lead, if you betray that trust, there's a particular weight that you qualify to be linked to that. I'm not here campaigning for any political party. I am not on a ballot paper. I'm not an independent, and I'm not linked to any particular party. But I thought I should use this opportunity to really thank each and every one of you for having been part of this particular setup. And as I reflected on the role of radio, I remember that 1994 found me on campus. And when the Independent Broadcast Authority licensed the first sets of stations, they started with community radio. And it was an epoch-making moment because they were making a statement that says democracy belongs to the people. And how do you empower communities except to give them a voice? And how do you give them a voice? Radio became that platform that afforded them a voice in their own language, talking about their own complexities, sharing all of those challenges, but also using the platform to celebrate the new freedom, the hopes, the aspirations, and all that it came with. Ladies and gentlemen, have a lovely evening. I'm sure there's some eateries outside and some very sobriety, not twisting stuff. So you're gonna walk out of here as clear as you came in. Thank you.